Hi everyone, Summer here with AstariaSen, and I wanted to talk about a book that I finished reading, Wild Magic. I talked about this in one of my other videos that I was really excited for some of the stuff that's in it. I have some markers that I want to discuss, but the reason why I picked up this book is because on the back she talks about the Celtic fairy faith, methods for creating relationships with the fairy folk, green kin ancestors, and spirits of the land. Then she talks about ley lines like dragon ley lines, fairy roads, spirit paths, and how it will transform the life in the here and now. And then she has some wild crafting like spells and traditions and stuff like that. So I thought this would be a great way for me to learn a couple new things, Fae-wise. The reading itself wasn't overly... Like, I had a hard time getting through the reading because it was kind of blah reading. I don't know how to explain that. Like, my interest in it was in a lot of the Fae stuff, but so much of the reading ended up being like, there were some folklore, especially towards the beginning, and then there's some really great areas in this that have to do with like oils, tinctures, trees, different kinds of herbs that grow and stuff like that. But that's not stuff that, I mean, I just flipped the pages through it because I didn't need to read through it. And some of the folklore was kind of cool. What some of the things I guess I want to point out is she does have areas. Sorry, you're going to hear my dogs barking. She does have areas like seeking a fairy friend. Now, I did read a review where somebody had said that seeking a fairy friend was all light and fluffy. It really isn't that light and fluffy. She talks very much about how you know, it says equally not all spirits and fairy beings we may encounter are friendly. Some may have no interest in us and others may have harmful intentions for a whole variety of reasons. And she kind of talks about that even further. So she's not talking about little glittery Tinkerbell fairies. She's talking about the Fae and connecting with them. And I wanted to point that out because I think that she didn't just light and fluffy it. She has a like whole page down here that goes over into the next page a little bit about seeking your like fairy guide, pretty much your Fae guide. And then she talks about something called the fetch or the co-walker, and I thought that was really interesting. So it's apparently an ally who has already been with you throughout your entire life, and she talks a lot about that, and I thought that was really cool. So I did learn I've learned quite a few new things from this book. So what I do think this book is good for, I mean, obviously I learned about the fetch, and she does have quite a few of the folklore in the Celtic stuff, but she also talks about like divination using, she calls it a natural divination kit, but it's kind of like a magpie idea where you collect certain things over an amount of years and then you can use it as a divination tool. And she talks about how to do that in here, which I thought was really interesting because I've never done anything like that, right? And it kind of reminds me of how Tiny Trinkets and Tarot uses her trinkets for readings. But these aren't just trinkets, they're more like natural substances like hagstones and different things like that. And then there is a section in here talking about moon water and scrying, and that's really good. Like, she talks about how to do the moon water, and she even goes into like her own like little blessing that she has for the moon water, like how she talks, you know, to the Lady of the Moon. She talks about the different sections: water, earth, air, and fire, and in each section she has like little spells that you can do or little things that you can make, or like the moon water you can make. And she talks about some of the traditional tales that are a part of each one, like the traditional tale, the Blue Men and the Minch, and they're all like folklore stuff. You know, she talks about Selkies. Some of it's stuff I've read over and over and over again. She talks about sea magic, but again, you know, and she's got this one in here for mermaid purses, which I thought was really cute. So if you're interested in that, you should check that out. But she has like a lot of different stuff in here. I did find it interesting in the air section. She talks about something I did not realize was there's those little whirlwinds of air that happen sometimes. People consider them to be fairies playing and stuff like that, but she talks about that in here. It's called the fairy wind. The Irish call it the fairy wind, and it actually has like a name that goes with the she, but I can't pronounce it, so I'm not gonna even try. But she does talks about how the fairy winds can either be seen as something ominous or something helpful, just depending on how it's viewed, pretty much. And it does talk about seeking like an air spirit, like how you might seek out an air spirit. So there's a practical use for it. And then she goes into birds and bird divination, which I thought some of you would be interested in because I know a lot of people who really enjoy working with birds. She's got owls, she's got raven, crane, swan, hawks. And then she goes into cloud divination and cloud scrying, which was cool too. Let's see, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, I gotta find my next piece here. There it is. Okay, so when I was talking about the different herbs and stuff like that, one of the things that I really like, and this is in the earth section, she has foraging rules on here, and then down into the next section she got the forager calendar, which is really, really interesting because when you flip the page, you get this whole section about herbs, and she talks about edible, medicinal, like if they're edible and medicinal or something like that. And she talks about the seasons too, like in winter, which ones go with it. In spring and summer, there's a lot that go in summer, autumn. And then she talks about making herb oils. So she's got like little things you can make in here too that really go well with everything. She talks about sacred space cleaners, which is cool. A lot about juniper. Apparently there's a juniper thing, and she even has a moon method in here about using like the moonlight and stuff like that. So in all, as an all-around book, it is quality. The last part of this that I do want to talk about, I mean, it is quality information. Like it's one of those books like you can easily just flip through, thumb through, find a specific kind of information that you might be looking for, like moon water or Fey spirit or earth, air, fire, water, and or herbal stuff. So you can it's like a flip through kind of book, not necessarily a read through kind of book. And so then the last one I want to talk about was ley lines. Now this is something I have not gotten into very much, but I kind of want to get into more. And ley lines, she talks more about it being dragon lines, dragon paths than anything. But they are also coincide with spirit paths and what is the other? It's fairy roads. Yeah, fairy roads. So I did like that. She's got Paths of the Dead here and like fairy roads, which are much smaller sections than you say the dragon one. In the dragon one, she has a journey where you can like actually reach out on the dragon path. And she does talk about, for me, because I focus more on the fae part of it, like the fairy part of it, I don't really connect with dragons per se, and I don't really want to connect with spirits. But the fae, I am interested in working with their energy a lot of the time, especially fairy fae. And fae is a blanket term, so, take that with a grain of salt if you're on my channel. But when she talks about the fairy ley lines and the fairy roads, she does talk about how they're not just ley line orientated, but there are fairy paths that don't even connect necessarily to a ley line, and she talks about how to find some of them. And that's kind of cool. It doesn't go into as much detail as I would have hoped on fairy. So that is unfortunate for me. But it does give me a lot of other quality information, and it does go into even like seeking out vision brews and doing vigils to seek out information and opening your mind's eye to the land and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool. She does not actually have a lot of rituals in here. She's got a few. She doesn't have a lot of recipes in here. She's got a few. But it's mostly a generalized idea of things rather than localized. When I read the back of the book, I felt it seemed more localized to fairy or fae folk than it actually is in the book. I do think it has a lot of druidism in it. It says wild magic. I think that totally pertains to it because she talks a lot about land magic and how to find different things and foraging and stuff like that. So, and connecting with those land spirits, including trees and offerings for trees and stuff like that. So overall, it is a quality book. Was it what I was expecting? No. So this is the book. It is Wild Magic by Daniel Forrest. I will leave a link in the description so you can go purchase it if you would like and check out other people's reviews. Yeah, so I hope you guys have a very great day.